3 after the famous Battle of the Sexes tennis match between Billie Jean King and world champion tennis player and male chauvinist Bobby Riggs. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Riggs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bobby Riggs, former world tennis champion. I play games so well, like tennis, golf, and backgammon, they call me the happy hustler as well. And would you believe one of these three beautiful women has married me twice? What a lot of courage they have. Which one? Hello, honey, what is your name?
My name is Priscilla Whelan Riggs.
Oh, look at this cutie. Now, what is your name?
My name is Priscilla Whelan Riggs.
Oh, and look at this one over here. She's a doll. What is your name?
My name is Priscilla Whelan Riggs.
Wow. Well, let's see. It's going to be pretty hard to choose. See you later.
Only one of these people is the real Priscilla Whelan Riggs and is the only one sworn to tell the truth. Now let's meet our panel. Co-star of Murder, She Wrote, Ron Mazak. Actress and cartoon voice, Dana Hill. Film and television producer, David Niven Jr. And to tell the truth's very own, Kitty Carlisle. Here's the host of To Tell the Truth, Alex Trebek.
Thank you. Thank you, Burton. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right to our first story, the one represented by this team of challengers, all three of whom claim to be Priscilla Whelan Riggs. And this is her story. I, Priscilla Whelan Riggs, am married to one of America's great tennis players and the world's best-known male chauvinist pig, Bobby Riggs. I've married this guy twice. You see, Bobby and I were wed first in 1952. We had 4 wonderful children. But after 20 years of marriage, we divorced. He gambled too much, stayed out too much, and didn't do the chores around the house. Later, I remarried and was widowed. Meanwhile, Bobby made headlines with his tennis hustling, his big mouth, and his famous tennis match, the Battle of the Sexes, with Billie Jean King. But I still loved him. Now I'm proud to say that when we were remarried on this past Valentine's Day, the ceremony was performed by our son John, who is a minister. It's true. Love is better the second time around. Signed, Priscilla Whelan Riggs. We'll find out more about this lady who scored twice in a game of love right after this.
The Accu-Check Compact...
Riggs, who married Bobby Riggs for the second time. And since 2 of them are imposters, one thing we discovered in that opening, and that is that Bobby Riggs is a flirt. Kitty, we'll start the questioning with you.
Number 1, had Bobby Riggs remarried as you had when you were divorced?
No, he never remarried.
Number 2, did he wait for you? Is that what he said?
I hope so. I hope that was the reason.
Number 3, what makes him better the second time around?
Well, he's older and a little cooler and a lot sweeter.
And number 2, what was the famous Battle of the Sexes? What happened?
Well, it was a battle with the Billie Jean King, and that was in 1973, and she won.
I see.
Let's go over to David.
Thank you. Number 1, what were the chores he hated doing around the house?
Just about anything.
Okay. Number 2, I can see why he married you the second time. Why did you want to marry him the second time?
Well, he had changed so much. I liked
What was the
him.
major change?
He'd given up his gambling, which
Was he a better lover, number 3, the second time around?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. Good. Okay. And it's saying...
What a great answer. Transition over to Dana.
Number 1, what was the score of the Billie Jean King match?
Oh, I don't really remember. It was so long ago.
Okay, number 2, where was that match held?
It was held in Houston at the Astrodome.
Okay, number 3, how did you 2 meet in the first place in 1952?
We met in Florida. I was taking tennis lessons there, and Bobby came to the club where I was taking lessons, and that's where I met him.
Okay, number 2, where did you renew your nuptials this Valentine's Day?
In Carlsbad, California, down by San Diego. That's where our son John married us.
Okay, number 1, do you have any other children besides your son John?
Oh, yes. A daughter, another son, and a lovely little granddaughter.
Okay, and
Let's go to Ron to wrap it up.
Number 3, who was Billy's major sponsor for that Battle of the Sexes?
I don't remember.
Number 2, it was a candy bar company, a candy company. Do you remember the name at all?
I don't remember that.
Number 1, before before Billie Jean King beat him, he beat a very famous woman champion before that.
Margaret Court.
Margaret Court. Number 3, did I ask you about Billie's other talents? He's a great golfer, is he not?
He's a wonderful handicap, 17.
17.
Now it's time for our voting. Who is the real Mrs. Bobby Riggs? Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Or is it number 3? Remember, folks, $500 for each incorrect vote with a minimum guarantee of $1,000. And if our panel is fooled completely, the team receives $3,000. Kitty, who would you vote for?
I would have remarried any of the 3. But number 3, I don't know. She had a kind of quiet charm, and I think that it's number 3.
All righty. David?
Well, Kitty, I actually have agreed with you for the 3rd time this week. I went for number 3 because I love the fact that she said that he was better sexually the 2nd time round.
Dana?
You and the sexual innuendos.
That was the direct
Well,
question?
just,
Yes, there was
just
no
for-
innuendo about that,
That's
Dana. It was
true.
very direct.
Just for a change of pace, they're all lovely women, and I admire them for sticking with Bobby. Not that Bobby isn't great, but I mean, I think it's nice that you renewed your vows. I went with number 2.
Ronnie?
Well, they're also timed. You know that. Sugar Daddy was the big sponsor, and he used to walk around carrying the big candy thing, and number 1 knew who Margaret Court was, and the other 2 didn't seem to, or I didn't get to them. So I went with number 1.
All righty. Let's review the votes. And we have 1 only for number 1, a single vote also for number 2, and 2 of our panelists thought number 3 was the real Mrs. Bobby Riggs. All right, let's find out who it is. Will the real Priscilla Whelan Riggs please stand up? It is number 1, and Ron got it. Mrs. Riggs, we'll get back to you in just a moment. Our 2 imposters earned 3 votes between them. Let's find out about them. Number 2, who are you, please?
My name is Dee Canterbury Lavery, and I'm Chief of Protocol for Mayor Tom Bradley in the City of Los Angeles.
How about that? Number 2, you earned 2 votes. Tell me about yourself.
My name is Lori Hoskins. I'm an attorney from Orange County, California, and I specialize in divorce.
I see. Well, there were 3 incorrect votes at $500 apiece. That means the team will receive $1,500. And thank you, ladies, for being with us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back former U.S. Open tennis champion and the Wimbledon champion, Bobby Riggs. Mrs. Riggs, is it better the 2nd time around, and what in particular makes it so?
Oh, go ahead, answer that.
Well, indeed, I think his disposition has mellowed tremendously.
Bobby, were you, when you were apart in those years, were you still hoping that somehow the 2 of you would wind up getting back together, or did it just happen by accident?
No, that was a secret hope of mine all the time, and I only hope this time it lasts longer than 20 years like it did the first time. I'm sure it's going to be better the 2nd time around.
Well, that's our hope also, Bobby. Thank you all for being with us today on Tell the Truth. When we come back, the first blind man who hiked the Appalachian Trail. Right after this. Gentlemen, I'd like you all to meet my new friend, Orient. This lovely dog played a major part in the story of our next guest. Let's meet the challengers now.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Bill Irwin.
Number 2.
My name is Bill Irwin.
Number 3.
My name is Bill Irwin.
All right, panelists, this is a very uplifting story. Follow along as I read the affidavit. I, Bill Irwin, am the first blind person to hike the Appalachian Trail. I wasn't an outdoorsman. I had never hiked before, but I got the idea that God wanted me to make this trek. My guide dog, Orient, walked with me every step of the way. The trail begins in Georgia, winds its way over the mountains and valleys of Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, and finally terminates in northern Maine. Each morning before we set out, I listened to audio tapes that described the upcoming terrain. Through trial and error, Orient learned to stop at every signpost along the way. I read the words which were carved into the wood. We hiked through all sorts of weather, and it took much longer than we planned. At one point, we really surprised a team of forest rangers. They thought I was dead. But God knew we'd make it. And now a book and a television movie of our story is in the works. Signed, Bill Irwin. Gentlemen, be seated. our panel to locate the real Bill Irwin. And we'll start the questioning with you, Ron Masak.
Number 3, tell me about they thought I was dead. What happened there?
The Rangers had heard rumors ever since I started the trail, and so they were just gathered there to organize a party to come in and get me.
Number 2, tell me about the reading of the signs on the trail. Were they in Braille?
No, they don't make them in Braille. They're made with carved. They're carved into the wood.
Number 1, you said you listened to audio tapes. Tell me a little bit about that. What did they tell you on the audio tapes?
Each day we had 3 sessions of tape. It would tell me where I'd go in the morning till lunch, and then till rest period, and then until the evening. So they would tell us that.
Oh, hey, a bright,
That's right on the
bright challenger. Here's the bell and stops. Dana, you can follow up if you like.
Number 1, it says you got the idea that God wanted you to make this trek. Was it through a dream? How did you come about this idea?
Well, it had taken a long time, and my life was going to pieces, and I had heard about treks to Medjugorje and various places like that, and God just said you should do something better with your life instead of being fat.
And number 2, who do you want to play you in the TV movie?
Charles Bronson.
Okay. Okay. And number...
Oh, out of time, Dana. Let's go to David.
Thank you. Number 1, I want to stay with this business about reading the words carved in the woods. Would you explain to me exactly what that is?
Originally, it's called blazing the trail, and they would be carving like Indian axes. They would just carve so many notches in a tree, and we would feel, or I would feel, or it wouldn't, how many notches, and then that would tell you approximately how far it was to the next stop.
Number 2, who told you about these Indian signs, or if they were Indian signs, or these notches in the trees?
I learned about that at trail school.
Number 3, is this normally done, I mean, were they expecting blind people to do this, or why would there be things carved in the trees?
Because if they use paint, the weather would take its toll on it, so the carvings in the trees would be much longer lasting.
Okay, number 1, how long did this thing take?
Time's up. Let's wrap it up with Kitty.
Thank you. Number 2, how long have you been blind?
I've been blind about 20 years.
And number 3, why did God tell you to do this trip?
He came to me in several different ways, through people and through letters that I received and things like that.
And number 2, did you hear God tell you to take this trip?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And number 3, do you think...
Oh, time's up. I realized as I was following the questioning and sitting a little bit closer to our challengers that when the panelists cannot make eye contact, it becomes even more difficult to pick out the real person. So now do your voting panel for number 1, number 2, or number 3. Ron, who did you think the blind mountain trekker was?
Well, I admire whoever it is because I have trouble finding my own bathroom in the dark. And I know how tough that must be. I went along, well, I'll tell you who I voted for. I voted for number 3 because knowing this crack staff, I watched as they sat down. He had his sleeves rolled up and he's got a watch on. And you say, well, why is he wearing a watch? Number 1 has a watch on, but they make Braille watches. And then he just took off that pack and just flipped it around and laid it there like he knew where it was. And that's the kind of a competent man who would take this trip.
All righty.
That's my reason.
A vote for number 3 then.
He left me no time to tell you the reason, so I went with number 3, too.
Way to go, Dana. David?
Well, I don't agree with either of you. Well, since if Kitty agrees with me, I voted for number 1 just purely on a hunch. And more than that, I cannot say.
That's all right. Kitty?
Well, I should have voted for number 1 because he said that God told him to do something with his life instead of sitting around and getting fat. And he is a little bit overweight. But I voted for number 2.
I see. You were thinking of number 1, but you wound up with number 2. Let's review the voting then, ladies and gentlemen. Each of our challengers has received a vote. Number 1 picked up 1 vote. 1 vote also for number 2, but number 3 got 2 votes. And now, let's find out who the real conqueror of the Appalachian Trail is. Will the real Bill Irwin please stand up? It is number 3. Bill, I suppose the obvious question is, what's the next challenge for you?
Becoming a couch potato.
Becoming a couch potato. You don't want to do anything like the Appalachian Trail again?
Not anymore, no.
No? What was the most terrifying part of the whole experience for you, and how long did it last?
8.5 months, and the toughest part was near the end in Maine because it was so cold.
Well,
in November.
It took its toll on Orient, of course, because he still hasn't recovered. He's passed out in front of me here. I don't know if you're going to get him to move at all for the remainder of the day. Let's find out who our imposters were today. Number one, who are you, sir?
My name is Doug Gibson, and I sell yearbooks for high schools and colleges.
I see. Well, that's good. Number two also earned one vote. Tell me about yourself.
My name is Dennis Sullivan, and I am a fitness consultant, and I sell treadmills.
Sell treadmills, so you could have taken that Appalachian hike. Well, there were two incorrect votes at $500 each, and that means the team will receive $1,000. And congratulations once again to you, Bill, on your great experience. And thanks to all three of you for being with us today on To Tell the Truth. Sit, Orient. We'll be back to play one-on-one with someone from our studio audience right after this. Studio audience, and I see a lovely young lady out there who looks as if she has dollar signs in her eyes. Burton, who do you have for us?
Well, today, Alex, we have Linda Gavlik from Cypress, California.
Welcome, Linda. Here's an opportunity for you to make some money, $500. We're going to introduce someone who has two stories to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Stan Wood. Linda, as you know, Stan's going to tell us two stories, only one of which happens to be the truth. You spot the true story, then you win $500. Okay. Stan, what's your first story, please?
I'm president of Human Scarecrows Incorporated. We rent ourselves out to scare away birds.
Sounds like fun. Let's listen to story number two.
I make music with a rubber band, and when I play, it sounds like a trumpet or a saxophone.
That sounds like fun also. All right, to help you out, our panel gets to ask one question apiece. Kitty, we'll start with you. First of all, the story about the scarecrow.
Mr. Wood, how much do they pay you per hour?
They pay me $5. They pay the people that work with me $5 an hour.
David?
Well, what is your favorite and most successful way of scaring away birds?
Using the noisemakers that we have.
Dana?
I'm just curious. Why HSI? Why are real people better than fake scarecrows?
Well, the fake scarecrow doesn't really do too much except for the immediate area.
Ron?
What's your favorite bird to scare?
Blackbirds seem to be the ones that need to be scared.
All right, so much for story number one. Now let's get to story number two, the fact that this man is a musician who plays rubber bands. Kitty?
Well, it's very hard to play a rubber band and make it sound like a trumpet or a sax. Why don't you play a real one?
I never thought about that.
But that was a darn good question. David?
Well, assuming you don't use the same rubber band to imitate both instruments, what is the difference in thickness between the rubber bands that you would use?
Just so that it's not too thick to not be able to blow air out.
Okay. Dana?
Do you play with other groups of rubber band players, or do you play solo?
Both.
Ron?
Saxophone, is it a tenor, baritone?
Hard to say. It's like probably more soprano, maybe.
Okay.
A soprano saxophone coming off a rubber band. All right, Linda, you've heard the cross-examination. Tell us now, for $500, is Stan a human scarecrow, or does he play the rubber band?
Well, I believe that he looks like one that would like to scare away some birds, so I'll say he's a human scarecrow.
Okay, the human scarecrow. Stan, what's your true story?
To tell the truth, I play the rubber band.
All right, sorry about that, Linda. No money for you, but we have a lovely consolation gift for you backstage. And to Stan for stumping Linda, we have $1,000 for you. And do you have any rubber bands with you? You brought your instruments? You brought your axe?
I do have one.
Do you need a moment to tune up?
Perhaps, you know.
All right. All right. Thank you, Stan. move over, Miles Davis. We'll take a break. We'll be back after this. Appalachian Trail, but we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.
This is Burton Richardson speaking for To Tell the Truth, the Mark Goodson television production.